Now we're live. There we go. It is the 19th of October. It is 4 o'clock in Baltimore. If my maths is right, probably 9 o'clock in London, and probably about, let's see, 2 o'clock in Denver, where some of us just come from. And we're edging together here on the stage at the Heritage Region Conference. In fact, we're joined by Camille, who has had a very active hand in this conference. And before we dive in, I just want to make sure that you also know that we've got Dianne Chase, our vice chair here, Carlos Fulcher, our executive director, just sitting on the right here, and then Melissa Dark, our global communications director, sitting out of San Francisco. It's a real pleasure to be here in Baltimore. I just wondered whether you could tell us a little bit more about the conference, the premise, and what you're hoping to do.
Yes, so we're on our second day of the conference here. We're in Baltimore. We have about 175 members, non-members that are here. Very, very good conference so far. We had a couple of really great keynoters, and have 21 sessions, different sessions going on throughout the conference, and it's really, really going well.
All right, great. And yesterday I was absolutely fascinated by the opening, I guess the opening keynote, which was a female chief communication officer, chief communication and marketing officer. I wonder whether you could just talk a little bit more to that.
Sure. Yeah, that was Martha Boudreau, and she was with AARP, and she spoke quite in depth about just how AARP reaches out to its various audiences, a very varied audience that is changing rapidly, and just how you reach out to those different audiences, change yourself, reimagine yourself, which is the theme of our conference is reimagine. And she did a really great job of just kind of walking people through what it's like for an organization with that many members that's that large to be able to reach out to those different audiences.
And if we just quantify it, are we talking about 37 million members? Is that right?
Something like that.
Something of quite a significant scale.
Very much.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
We hope you might join us a little bit later on. But for now, we'll let you go, if that's right.
All right. Thank you very much.
So if you want to follow the conference, meanwhile, remotely, you can do it via the Twitters, and the hashtag just before you go is
IABC HRConf, HRCONF.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Right. We'll turn to Carlos now to briefly reflect on the conference just passed in Denver. You had an opportunity to come along to that one. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the conference that took place in Denver was the Southern Region Conference, and that was a very exciting conference titled "Elevate Your Communications." Extreme communicators need to continue to learn, to train relentless, to stay competitive in the marketplace. And the primary focus of the conference was around that particular topic. They had a very interesting session, a panel session around culture, and how the Vita has changed the organization dramatically by implementing a very interesting cultural environment where people are very committed, and they're committed from a very personal standpoint. And the organization has turned itself around from being close to bankruptcy to being an organization that's now, I believe, close to $2 billion.
Quite a remarkable story, and the only time recently I've been on stage with a chap who's known as Yoda. That was quite an experience as well. They have something called a Chief Wisdom Officer. That's quite an interesting concept. But I think the main takeaway for me from an IABC point of view is the fact that a strong culture is what makes all the difference. And in fact, IABC is an example of an organization that has a very strong culture. And I'm very appreciative of all the collaborative hard work that's going on out there. So with that, we've already covered several conferences, but we've got one more. So we've got Melissa.
And before, Michael, we move off of the Southern Conference, they've already announced where the conference is going to take place next year, which is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
And they've invited everybody who attended to come down to Atlanta and experience the event.
Sounds great. Sounds great. We're going to talk a little bit more about the conferences coming up next year, and also we'll touch on a few that have happened early on in the year. But before that, I was hoping we would just briefly turn to Dianne, who is actually fresh back from Canada, from Calgary. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
One thing, sorry, before Dianne.
Sure.
And then to remind everyone, if they want to submit a question for anyone to answer, they can do so. If they're on Google Hangout, they can use the Q&A to just submit a question there, or they can submit it on Twitter using the hashtag IABCIEB. So 2 ways of doing that: the Q&A on Google or the hashtag with Twitter. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Michael. I don't know, you said fresh. I don't know how fresh I am, but got in early this morning. Actually, I'm really energized. The theme of the Canada West Region Conference was high octane, and it lived up to that name very, very well. In fact, the conference exceeded goal for attendance and also for budgeting for the financials. So it was overall just an outstanding conference of great attendees, members, non-members, communication leaders. The subject matter ran from metrics to reputation. We had the Master Communicator Awards also, which is the highest honor for the Canadian IABCs. So it overall was just a very energizing conference. The feedback has been amazing, and don't want to forget that Stephanie Dute, our membership director, was also on hand. So it was wonderful having her there to talk to the attendees one-on-one about the exciting things going on in membership with IABC. And then in Basel, we had the European, Middle East, North Africa Leadership Institute that I attended, and that again was an outstanding gathering of IABC leaders. There's so much going on with the rebranding, and I think that's bringing in so much new energy, some innovation. A lot of aspirational goals are being set across IABC by these leaders, and it's just very, very, very interesting, very exciting, a wonderful time to be involved with IABC as a leader. And you know, new things like websites, reaching out to members at large with new programs, all kinds of new, exciting, energizing things going on from leaders around the world, really.
Great. And just before we move into, we're going to talk a little bit more about the leadership institutes going around the world, and Dianne will also talk more about the international one coming up in Los Angeles. We're just going to quickly cover the other conferences that have been going on this year. And in fact, you happen to come along to the one in London. And Carlos, from your perspective, could you maybe share a little bit about that one?
Yeah, that was a conference that took place back in April 12th to the 14th in London at the London College of Communications. Mm-hmm. Another very exciting conference for IABC, one of the leading conference in Europe for business communicators. And the theme of that conference was power to the people. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the sessions around how do we empower individuals to take leadership roles in the organizations. And it was, again, very exciting. Great to see our leaders from Europe come together in that one conference. Again, they are also already planning the conference for next year, which is going to take place in Rotterdam at the Public Library of Rotterdam.
Excellent, excellent. And just closing out on the conferences, just two more, one that has happened and one that's coming ahead. One, of course, was the South African contingent put together a superb conference in Johannesburg with a very strong turnout there. And they are already planning for next year. I believe they're going to go to Cape Town. I have to admit, I don't have the dates to hand, but if you have an opportunity to dip down below the equator that time of year, that is a great opportunity to connect with some world-class communicators, sharing practice, and quite often coming at challenges in a different way than people do in many other economies. They're definitely an area with some unique opportunities. The last one I want to talk about is really the fact that in Denver, both you and I had an opportunity to sit down with Stacey Wilson and Sarah, I mustn't mess up her surname, McLaughlin, I think it is, who are the respective chair and co-chair, or sorry, vice chair of the Program Advisory Committee for the next year's World Conference. That's coming up at the beginning of June. We had a really productive and constructive meeting looking at basically the evaluation that's ongoing for the speakers and also parts of the broader program such as gift to communication. We talked a little bit about the circles of fellows and so on. Anything to add to that?
I think I would just add that this is part of IABC looking at its mature products and looking at how do we re-energize the products that have been around for a while but need to be uplifted. And the PAC, the Program Advisory Committee, is looking at those different types of sessions, different types of formats to bring new and exciting content to attendees.
Yeah, and that's actually a timely opportunity. You may have seen it on the blog, but you will recall if you attended the annual general meeting that the board kicked off a portfolio review. So we've been basically looking through the products and doing a comprehensive analysis on viability, profitability, and basically return to the organization and so on. That work has largely been completed from an analysis point of view, and I just want to express gratitude to Ginger Homan, our treasurer, and Carlos, who led that effort. And that feeds directly into basically what's next for a range of the things that we're planning, anything from the Best in Show, which is coming out of World Conference, all the way through to the work going on with the various committees, which we'll get to later on in this call. But for the moment, I want to move on and talk a little bit more about the Leadership Institutes. Dianne already shared some of the feedback from Basel, from the Europe and Middle East effort. I believe that was led by Carlos Fulcher, the chair of Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. A Leadership Institute did take place in South Africa as well during the conference. The chair there is Daniel Munslow, and the main issues to come out of that was really a concern around pricing, because the rand, basically the exchange rate, has kind of gotten out of whack, if I can call it that. And we're feeding that into some work that's undergoing at the board level. A membership task force is basically well underway, led by Claudia Vaccarona, looking at both pricing, working with the finance committee, but also looking at our overall membership proposition. Now, you had an opportunity to sit in on the Leader Summit in Denver. I wonder whether, Carlos, you could talk a little bit about what you heard there.
Yeah, there was a great session where many of the chapter leaders from the Heritage region have come together to share their experiences, share best practices around what's taking place at the chapter level. Heard a lot of great ideas that are taking place at the individual chapter levels, and folks talked about program and the program development side, where they're delivering very relevant content to individuals at the local level, members and non-members. They also talked about the need for succession planning.
Yeah.
That's so important at the chapter level, and a lot of chapters really depend heavily on their leaders. I mean, every chapter does, and to have a plan that's well developed around succession, and that you're grooming and developing the leaders of the future is really critical to the future success of the chapter. We heard quite a bit about that, as well as part of that process, the orientation of our leaders as they come into the chapter to understand how the chapter functions, as well as the relationship to the region and international.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. It's what you might call onboarding, and it's not just a question of onboarding new leaders, it's also helping existing leaders basically stay on board. And that's basically part of what this is all about, right? Basically having these calls, an opportunity for people to ask questions. And as a timely reminder to maybe turn to Melissa, just to have a quick reminder on how you can ask a question if you have something coming up here. It doesn't, by the way, have to be exactly on the topic that we're talking about now. It's basically anything as an IABC leader you'd like to raise, you're welcome to do so. So, Melissa, would you just briefly take us through how that can be done?
Yes, sure. So people can use the Q&A feature here on Google+, and the question appears just here, and I'll be reading them out, and whoever's appropriate on the panel can answer them. And I'm also monitoring Twitter for the hashtag IABC IEB, which stands for IABC International Executive Board, and so people can choose to just tweet a question using that hashtag, and I'll raise that, or they can use the Q&A here in Google.
Great. And some people have also emailed directly. I had an email from Jennifer Waugh, one of the fellows, asking if fellows should be included in this call. Why not? Why not? Basically, any IABC leader out there, whether they have a chapter or regional position, or indeed serve on a committee, should be able to participate here. So we'll make sure that they get the details of these calls. So thank you, Jennifer, for raising that. We've got Camille back in the wings here. She's going to come in and share a little bit of insight from the Heritage Region leadership discussions. So welcome back.
Squeeze back in. Thank you. It's a busy time here.
It is.
So we did on Sunday. We've actually done this for 10 years now at our conferences. We had what has been rebranded as the Chapter Leaders Institute at the region level. We've called it the Forum in the past, but we take the same approach that we take at LI, where we really, we bring in some speakers, but the main thing is just to encourage those chapter leaders just to talk, to get to know each other, especially at the region level. That's very important because a lot of the proximity, they know that they have a better, they can talk to people in their own area. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of discussion about, what the challenges are right now, which the challenges everyone's facing. Things like getting speakers and how do we deal with other people, what we consider to be competition, the other organizations in town. How do we get people in the door? How do we keep those people? And then also a lot on how do we prepare our leaders to be able to run the chapters efficiently and effectively. Mm-hmm. So it was really a good conversation. We always find that we have a lot of they come away very energized and enthusiastic, just like at LI.
That's great. That's great. And actually, a couple of those came up in Denver as well. And there's a couple of things that came out of the group. One was that the Chapter Management Award, you can find the past entries, so you can kind of cheat and see how people did things in the past. That's a really good way of doing that. And I think we've got the Chapter Management Awards coming up later on this year. I'm wondering whether Dianne might coincidentally have the deadline to hand.
The call is out, Michael, so we are standing by, eager, ready to get those entries in, and we'll have until, I believe, mid-December. I don't have the exact date in front of me. I'm sorry, right. But as Michael said, please do go to past winners and look at some of the award-winning entries and reach out to them. This is IABC. You can pick up a phone and call another IABC member and get some input and guidance.
Absolutely.
Actually, Dianne, while you're talking about that, we've had a question from Casilda who's asked if anyone has any advice for somebody who's considering entering the Chapter Management Awards for the first time.
Like to go to the website and look at some past entries. There's a great guidebook there and lots of information as to what key points make for an award-winning entry, award-winning chapter, I should say. So should be a lot of guidance there, and would love for Casilda to reach out if she has any other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key point there is that IABC leaders don't bite. So basically, go find a winner in probably a chapter that's equivalent size. We're going to have a slight dig at the Torontonians. I hope they don't mind. We should really have a monster chapter size category on their own. But in the case of Casilda's chapter, it might be looking at one that's comparable and basically just reaching out to the chapter president, talking to them, and learning from them. Right? Great question. So over to you, putting you on the spot. Have you got any questions?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. No, I don't.
Not right this moment. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right.
We have another question I can propose whilst you guys give you some thinking time. Yeah. It's a question from Malia and in Canada, and she said that you mentioned earlier about pricing and exchange rates. Mm-hmm. She wondered if any thought's been given to charging for academy courses in local currency, so in Canadian dollars, pounds, etc., instead of just US.
That's a good question, Carlos. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this is actually, I think the whole concept of pricing, product pricing for IABC is something that we're going to be taking into consideration. One, as we think for our budgeting purposes going into 2016, but other is how do we make our products affordable around the globe? Not just the educational offerings, but also membership. Yep. And the board has specifically charged a task force around membership to look at the membership product from a value standpoint, from a pricing standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just before you go, just one final thing. I think I'm right to say you got a dine around.
Oh yes, the ever famous dine arounds that we do at all IABC events. So tonight we have 10 restaurants that we're going to, and IABCers love to eat and drink, and this is their chance. We really get a good response because people want to meet each other. They want to meet different people. They want to connect with the people that they've already connected with, and the networking and the fun that you have it carries over at the region level as much as at the world level. So
should it happen that there's an IBC leader out there who's not quite sure how to do it, could they reach out to you to
absolutely.
learn more?
Yes, we could definitely help you figure that out.
Great, great. All right, well, okay. we'll let you go once more.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we've talked about the Leadership Institute. I just wanted to dive in a little bit more, if that's okay, because a couple of really interesting things came out. One was Kansas City. They shared how they've been working with personas to better understand their audience, and I'm very pleased that they're willing to share that with the membership committee as part of the input into that group. And in fact, they might also be useful for the comms committee, which in fact Melissa's working on at this point in time as well. The other idea I thought, which was really interesting, which came through from Brazos Valley, was the fact that by offering less seats for their PD events, they got more people. Yeah, go figure, right? So scarcity basically sells, at least in Brazos Valley. And they actually talked about an event, if I'm not mistaken, where they brought in 10K for a relatively small chapter. That's pretty impressive. The other couple of things that stood out, I'm just really looking through my comprehensive notes here. It was quite a long session, but incredibly rewarding. Let's have a look here. Was the experience that people gained evaluating Gold Quill. That came through very clearly, and I wonder whether we're doing good enough a job on really promoting not just the opportunity to participate in Gold Quill as a person that potentially wins an award, but also as an evaluator. And in fact, I wonder whether that's a reasonable cue to cue Melissa for a little bit of show and tell on Gold Quill as we're in the middle of basically the call season.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, I have a bit of show and tell. There's a hot off the press, actually. Hopefully people have seen the Gold Quill website and the marketing toolkit that's available on Leader Centre, and we've certainly seen a lot of chapters sharing it, particularly on Twitter and on social media. We're about to, this mailer is about to hit everyone's mailboxes. It's heading off, I think it just went into the mail last week. It's a similar approach to what we did last year, where it's actually this way and it becomes the call for entries, and it's got all the information on the categories and how to enter, pricing, deadlines, all of that kind of thing. The first deadline, which is important to know about, is the early bird deadline, and that's the 18th of November, so it's coming up quite soon. The other thing is we'll be announcing this week, it's just been confirmed today, we'll be doing a webinar for people who are interested in entering. Monica Lankuki ABC, who's the Gold Quill chair, will be running a webinar for entrants to help them with some advice on how to enter and how to make their entry the best it can possibly be. And that's going to be on Monday the 2nd of November at 1 p.m. Pacific time, early Tuesday morning in Australia, and we'll be advertising that around all of our channels through the week this week, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people along to that, with the hopes of then getting a lot of people entering Gold Quill as well.
Great, excellent, excellent. Okay, the next thing I was hoping to basically take us through was actually something which is very topical because it's October, it's Member Month, and just wondered whether we could just briefly talk a little bit about that. So essentially there's two things in play. One, Member Month happens every year. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, chapters can run their own member month at a separate time, but this is the international one. And what's particularly exciting about this one is the fact that this time around we've taken off part of the international dues to make it a little bit more affordable, speaking back to that pricing point early on. And also we have a concept called Very Important Communicator, which is a really interesting concept. And I wondered, actually, Melissa, could I put you on the spot? Could you talk us through what that exactly means? Would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. So there's a couple of different benefits of Membership Month this month. So for new members who are new to IABC or rejoining after their membership has lapsed for more than 60 days, they're receiving a 10% discount from their international dues, and we waive the $40 joining or reinstatement fee. What we're also asking is that they name a member who might have referred them. And so for you as an IABC member, if you refer people to IABC this month and they join and list your name as their referrer, you'll go in the running to win the very important Communicator Pack, VIC, which is a pack for World Conference. You'll be able to attend World Conference, all of the special events, including the gala and the foundation luncheon. There is special seating, there are a lot of different little benefits for you that you'll have at World Conference, including, I believe, a drink bought by you, Michael. I think they get to sit down with you.
Apparently so, yes.
So what we're trying to do is I guess, help you to share the benefits that you've got from IABC. And one of the tools that's available for that on the membership page on the website is there's a little widget there where you can click and it will automatically generate an email within your own email client that you can then send to people that shares all of the information about IABC membership. So it's all ready for you, already populated. You just need to add the names that you'd like to send it to. So.
Right, and that's on the Leader Center, right?
No, that's actually on the membership page. So
right.
Yep, on iabc.com/membership.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, and I actually just spotted a tweet coming in here. So Leslie Crook is asking, membership, have you considered membership model by merely joining an IABC conference, you receive a mid-year's membership? In fact, that's formerly known as a join and go. I know the South African regional conferences have been doing that for a number of years very successfully. And I know we're changing a little bit around how the registration for World Conference next year will work. Could you maybe speak to that, Carlos?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're looking at for the World Conference in relationship to membership is two things. One is how do we improve the experience around the World Conference registration process.
Yep.
And what we're planning to do is the ability for individuals to join at the registration process for the World Conference. So there's an opportunity to facilitate the joining process, which today is completely separate.
Right.
So that's something that's under consideration right now.
Okay, so thank you, Leslie. And if there are any other questions out there, you can tweet us, or you can indeed, as Melissa said, raise the question here.
And in fact, we have a couple, if
okay.
I can interrupt.
Yeah.
There's a question from Judy Iannacone, and she would like to know if IABC leaders are aware of any chapters that are doing very well with student chapters, and are there any best practices that chapters need to be aware of?
Absolutely, that's a great question. In fact, that was one of the stars I was looking for in my notebook, because one chapter that certainly stood out for me was Houston in Texas, when they reported back to the leaders in Denver just last week. And what they specifically shared was the fact that they are spending quite a bit of resource on working with the local university. And what I do hasten to add there is that from an IABC point of view, at the strategic level, students are not our primary audience, right? It's not where we serve the best. As we saw this morning, Carlos, when we asked the audience here to kind of organize themselves depending on which part of their career paths that are are on the books, so to speak, here at IABC, people most strongly identify with what's known as the strategic advisor. In fact, we saw the same thing in Denver, because we did the same exercise there. There are a few outliers, usually a couple of people who are just starting out, and a fair number of what's known as generalist specialists, but the absolute dominant group is definitely the strategic advisor. However, we do recognize that strategic advisors can add a lot to the next generation through mentoring, and through helping out, career advice, and so on. And that's where that student connection really comes in. And also, the key takeaway certainly I had from the Houston chapter was the fact that they were working very closely, specifically with people on faculty at the university. A couple of others that come to mind. This is not a scientific roundup. This is just the things that I've heard. I know that the UK chapter is working very hard with a range of universities, including the one that's a stone's throw from my own balcony, which is the London College of Communication. And in fact, they also sometimes draw on IABC members to come in, or IABC leaders to come in and actually guest lecture, to make sure that they're staying current and tied in with the profession. And in fact, tomorrow, I believe I'm meeting with somebody from the University of Maryland to that end as well. And then the last one that comes to mind is actually a conversation I had between an IABC Colorado leader and the University of Denver, where actually the University of Denver very generously provides lecturing facilities. So they're not just serving student members, but also basically serving the general chapter. And so there's an idea for chapters out there that are looking for event space, essentially. It might be worthwhile to reach out to the local university and basically see if you can use a lecture theatre. Any I hope that answers the question. It was slightly long and complex, but nevertheless. Any other questions, Melissa?
Yes, we do actually. So, just looking at these. Okay. Oh, this is a question to me actually from Malia. Melissa, will the location of the chapter leaders subgroup change now that LinkedIn is discontinuing the subgroups feature? Okay, so the answer is no, it's not moving or changing. You'll still be able to get to it. It's become a private group, which means it's not listed anywhere anymore, so other people can't find it, and your membership of it won't appear on your personal profile on LinkedIn anymore. But the subgroup thing was really only it inherited permissions from its parent group, and that's not the case anymore, and we've kind of sorted that out. So it's basically business as usual.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for that. We also, I happen to see a tweet here, if that's all right, Melissa, which is I tried to review email for finance. The links were broken. We'll get those fixed. Sorry about that. And actually, it reminds me of a great story, one of my favorite ones from Denver. There was a chap who felt they just had too many resources. That was a beautiful thing. So they got some useful advice on how to basically invest in growing the membership. And really, the group came together and shared some very good and practical advice on how to do that. I want to just briefly switch us back, unless there are more questions at this point in time.
Yeah, there is a couple actually. About events, this is from Tammy. Are you aware of any development opportunities in November or December?
I am. There's an IABC Leadership Institute coming up in Sydney, which is very exciting. It is down under, so if you, for example, live in, say, Maryland, it might be a little bit far, but nevertheless, there is one opportunity there. But is it specific to leaders, or is it more generally for communicators?
I don't know. Maybe if Tammy, that's not enough of an answer for you, maybe you could write in again and let us know if there was something specific you wanted to know.
Free to reach out. Okay, we'll take one more.
Next one, yeah, Casilda said, oh, thank you, Casilda. We love the marketing toolkits, Melissa. They're very useful. Are there any others planned for the rest of the year? I don't think so right now, because we've got World Conference already up and Gold Quill already up. We'll probably continue to add to those two particularly. So just, I guess, keep an eye on those, and we'll be adding fresh content as often as we can.
You do raise an important point there, because that was something that has come out from leaders, that they valued the, for example, opportunity to borrow the idea, and I have to admit, it could have been anybody in IABC coming up with the idea originally, so I'll be careful here. But at some point, there's been a set of letters circulating. So, for example, there was a letter for ABCs, there's a letter for World Conference, which you can basically give to your boss to say, this is the reason why I need funding to do this, that, and the other. And I believe that the Southern Region Conference actually adapted that letter for the Southern Region Conference. And you could imagine doing that for a PD event at a local level as well. So there are definitely some opportunities out there. Also, let's say we've received some encouragement for the Global Communication Certification Council to continue their work on marketing their product sets more clearly, to enable basically chapter leaders to not just speak to their immediate board colleagues, but also sort of take it on the road, so to speak. So there's more to come. So sort of watch this space on that front. Okay. I'd like to just quickly bring us back to just closing out the topic around leadership institutes. Dianne, first of all, any questions that came up in Calgary that we haven't covered just yet? And if not, then could you talk to us about Los Angeles in 2016, please?
Sure, Michael. Speaking of just kind of another comment about the DCCC, there is a lot of interest in more communication around that, and so that is something we'll be talking about on Thursday at the Certification Council meeting. How can we up our communication around certification? And really, the whole idea of a toolkit was strongly endorsed during conversations that I had with some of the leaders in Canada. So we'll be looking at that and see where we can do that to make sure that there's clear communication around certification and making it very understandable and very easy for chapter leaders to adopt and help promote and really be ambassadors for that program. It's so important to definitely have our leaders on board as ambassadors. And speaking of our International Leadership Institute, the theme is Inspiring the Leader in You, which I think is perfect. So we're crafting a lot of sessions, breakout sessions, roundtable sessions, a World Cafe session, sort of a town hall session. So there's going to be lots and lots of emphasis on interactivity, sharing best practices, having time for more one-on-one conversations where you really can have some in-depth conversations about what you need, how you can better be served by your regional and international leaders. So we're very excited about that. The program is being finalized, and we will get that out to you really soon. We want to make sure that we communicate about scholarship opportunities as well, and would love to hear back from chapter leaders about what their plans are for scholarships to Leadership Institute.
Great, thank you very much for that. And I see a couple of other comments coming in. Just checking with Melissa if you've got additional questions there.
I do actually. There is, Casilda has submitted a couple of things. One is basically an ad, I think. She's asked that she invites IABC leaders to contribute thought leadership pieces to the IABC Emina blog. And so reach out if you have something you'd like to see published. And she has also asked, is the new form to become a member online up and running?
All right, Carlos, would you like to speak to that?
I'll be happy to. And this is an item, a question that's come up frequently now as we have entered the membership month, the month of October. And the answer is absolutely yes. The online form has been functional since the beginning of October. I actually should say September 30th, the evening of that day is when we launched the form. We've been monitoring very closely, so when there are issues, and there have been very few, I would say, we are notified of those issues and are able to jump in and address them right away. Just to give you a sense, between the online renewal, which is another application, and the join online process, between both of those, we get on average anywhere between 30 to 40 applications on a daily basis. So, and again, we continue to monitor that and follow up with individuals if there's any questions or anybody who gets stuck in that process.
All right, thank you for that. I just want to quickly add a little bit about the Leadership Institute. It is a great opportunity for people to really step up and bring their leadership skills to the next level, and also really for that sharing to make life easier, right? So quite often we go off and basically reinvent wheels, and here's an opportunity to simply come along and realign them, save ourselves quite a lot of time and effort, and learn from each other. And I'm very excited about the work that's undergoing there, and I'm really appreciative for Dianne's leadership of the Council of Regions, and of course working with Michaela and staff on putting that program together. So do add that to your calendar. That's February in Los Angeles, especially if you are in a snowbound country. I can tell you it's going to be a little bit warmer than that. I noticed a couple of comments here I've seen, which aren't necessarily questions so much, but one was around sharing good practice from chapters. Absolutely, here. And by the way, don't wait till Leadership Institute, right? Leadership sharing is not just for Christmas, right? You can do it all year. You can use that LinkedIn group. You can tweets. You can do lots of different things. So do get the word out. I also noticed here a question, or rather a comment around using tools like Yammer. That is something that comes up again and again and again. I remember at the Leadership Institute, actually in Minneapolis, earlier on in the year, one we hadn't previously mentioned. There was a question, effectively, around what I might call the stack, meaning the chapter management stack. What are the tools that chapters use to basically manage things and so on? I think we need to do a better job at sharing what works best. So one practical one I think I've blogged about previously is the fact that the board uses a tool called Zoom to basically have a way of having all 12 people visible all at one time But there's a whole range of other tools out there, and the best way we're going to find the best ones is basically by sharing the ones that we're using and sharing the experiences that we have, because there probably is no one-size-fits-all, because each chapter is a little bit different one from another. I wonder whether there's also a comment here from Jonathan Champ. Melissa, have you got that one there? Do you want to read it out, and I can cover it?
Sure. It's I think relating back to what we were talking about with student chapters.
Yeah.
He's saying that without a proposition for all stages of the career cycle, including students, it's hard to create a pipeline for future leaders. That's
a really, really good point, and I really take that on board, and the board takes that on board, and especially the finance committee takes that on board. You know, as an organization, we need to think both short-term, but also we think very long-term. The reality is that at this point in time, as an organization, we've got to focus on our core strengths. The market has been particularly challenging, and especially as we've been coming out of 10 years of underinvestment in technology, we've had a lot of adaptation to do. So we, as a board, are incredibly appreciative of the chapters that have the extra surplus of time to invest, and sometimes resource to invest in student population, in mentoring programs and so on. There's some amazing mentoring programs out there. In fact, Toronto comes to mind, obviously at a significant scale. I know the UK runs one, because I'm active in it as a mentor, but I also know that there are others out there. The core point is that we, at this point in time, are focusing in on our core strengths, and then as we build more bench strength, so to speak, we will very well be likely to look at the more broader paths and see how we can best support them. But the key point I'm trying to make here is that part of the value in IABC is the fact that our leaders can provide that localized, specialized insight, right? So by us sharing that global professional set of processes, the global standard, the process around how do you basically make an award-winning communication plan and so on, which can be validated through, for example, Gold Quill. By sharing that shared practice, then we can build that individual customization on to reach individual markets and individual people in different stages of their career. Any other questions? And meanwhile, Jonathan, if that does not answer your question, just reach out and we'll talk more. Any other questions at this point in time?
Tammy has just come back to, I guess, clarify her previous question.
Mm-hmm.
She was looking for development opportunities for communicators because she says she's got some training dollars left.
Oh, right.
So I would say check out the IABC website. There's a lot of offers there.
Absolutely. So there's a whole range of things you can do. I'll just start with Best in Show. So if, in case you did attend World Conference this year but didn't have a chance to see all the speakers, or if you missed it, you can certainly do that. There's a range of courses from the Academy. Big thanks to Theo Mary Karamanis, who continues to lead that committee, with some support from Sharon Hunter from the board, and of course Ronna Hansen on staff. And the other thing that's worth checking out is at the local chapter level, right? Just because you might live in wherever it is that you live doesn't mean that you have to attend only the events at that local chapter. There's things going on almost every day around the world. There's a lot of opportunities there, so that might be something for you. And then last but not least, I think we've got Early Bird coming up for World Conference. Carlos.
Yeah, we do. Actually, the World Conference registration is going to open up at the end of this month. And as we have in the past, the registration process will include an early bird that will run through the end of the year. It's a big incentive and for folks to register early.
And with that saving, maybe bring a friend, 2 friends, bring a boss. Melissa, any other questions at this point in time?
Not right now.
Not right now. In that case, we'll move on to the next thing, which is just a couple of brief updates from the committees. We've got quite a significant number of committees out there doing work at the international level to advance the profession, but also to advance the association. I just want to touch on a couple of ones. One, very briefly, just because we literally met with them just before this, it's a small task force looking at fellowship, specifically on the criteria. We are 2 years into some changes that we introduced, basically increasing the number of fellows from 2 to 5 being appointed, or up to 5 being appointed every year. So they're just basically doing an evaluation of the impact of that. That's work that's being led by Brad Whitworth, who many of you will be familiar with, and other members of that committee include Anna Willey, a more recent fellow, and we also have a past chair on that group. The other one that comes to mind that's kind of going from strength to strength is really around certification. So, Carlos, I wonder whether you might speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I would speak about some specific things that are taking place. Dianne Chase mentioned a little bit earlier the work that is currently underway at the Certification Council under the leadership of Sue Human. And it's exciting to see how much or how far the certification program has come this year. Exciting with the process that opened up early in the year when the certification was launched, and then with the applicants who set in for the first exam at the 2015 World Conference, and then subsequently secured this new certification. So really exciting. So as the council looks beyond that, it's really about making the certification accessible more globally. And then we've reached out to regions, to chapters who have received the invitation very warmly and have stepped forward to host a whole series of events, or I'm sorry, a whole series of sites as we look to expand the program globally. So I'm going to just go through the list of submissions that we received so far for sites that are going to be coming up here. So in November, the exam is going to be available in Sydney, Australia. In April of 2016, the exam is going to be available in Cincinnati, Chicago, Toronto, Halifax, Maritime, London. And then in June of 2016, we will repeat that at the World Conference in New Orleans. And following that, the Regina and the African region have already stepped up to look to offering the exams. So this is going very quickly.
It is great.
And we're excited to be able to make this available to folks beyond the North American market.
And just checking here, is this London, Ontario, or London, United Kingdom?
Thank you very much. This is London, UK.
London, UK. All right. Very good. Thank you for that. Also, the Council of Regions is working on a couple of other things in addition to the Leadership Institute, and they are, in fact, an incredibly hardworking group. Dianne, I wonder whether you might just briefly talk a little bit about what else is going on from that group, which, of course, is made up of the regional chairs around the world.
Well, as you mentioned, Michael, the Leadership Institute is pretty much our front burner project at the moment. We're very excited about it. We're finalizing the agenda once again and the speakers, and very much looking forward to a super successful Leadership Institute now that the Council of Regions is the Program Advisory Council. This is the second year that this has happened, and I think it's one of the best moves that we've made because we do have our region chairs who are in touch with our frontline leaders and members who really know what sorts of topics need to be offered that will provide the most value in terms of securing retention of our leaders. Again, we want the onboarding process to really be focused on. Preventing leader burnout really is also a hot topic as well. So we're very much focused on that. And then just the Council of Regions itself is a great brain trust of chairs from around the world. And I think the main thing that I want to encourage our leaders to do is to reach out and use the regions as a resource. So as we're looking for best practices, or is there another chapter I could even partner with? That was one concept that came up during the board meeting in the Canada West region. So we have the concept of one chapter really supporting another. So pairing up chapters for a sister chapter, if you will, or brother chapter, whatever you prefer, and helping each other through whether it may be an awards event or whatever it may be. So think about that partnership. But these are all ideas that the Council of Regions chairs and board members can help you with. They can help you find a resource that you're looking for. They can help support you with ideas, even with volunteers. We had one region who had an amazing trust of 90 volunteers in waiting.
Wow.
And so everybody around the table just kind of went silent and said, so sharing that information, now the other chapters who need a pool of volunteers for whatever it may be can reach out to this particular chapter with this wealth of volunteers. Wow. So I think one of the main things really is to just be aware that your chapter leaders, your chapters can benefit from a strong relationship with your region chairs and your region board members.
Great. Thank you very much. So just to reiterate, IBC leaders don't bite, or at least not that hard. So do always pick up the phone or tweet or otherwise reach out to people come find them at a conference. They tend to be friendly people. Okay, great. Just a couple of other quick things that are underway. I'm very pleased with the work that the Communications Committee has underway. The board has been looking at IABC's overall communication strategy. It's something that we will come back to on a future call. In fact, we might have Katie McCauley come along to one of those to talk a little bit more about the vision there. But it's essentially the follow-on work to a great extent of the brand work that, of course, took place last year under the leadership of Priya Bates. And also, it's very encouraging to see so many chapters and special regions adopting the brand so quickly. And again, as always, if you have issues with that, do reach out. There's a whole range of resources on the website around that. The other thing we've got is around a membership survey. Carlos, could you maybe just speak briefly to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So data is one of those important elements for any organization to be able to make educated decisions. And at IABC, we have not done a really good job at collecting data at a global level around membership. So the board has commissioned a study, if you would, a survey to be executed later this year, beginning of next year, to help educate this organization around membership. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be, again, a global survey that's going to reach out to members, lapsed members, to collect information around membership, the membership value of the organization, as well as educating the work that's currently underway by the membership task force. So stay tuned for that as we start to put that in motion.
And just a quick shout out to Claudia Baccarona leading the membership task force. And again, in fact, a number of the leaders on that task force are doing double duty, so they're coming from the council regions or deputizing there, which is really positive and great to see. Also, linked to that, talking of data, there will be a leadership survey, so specifically focused on leaders, that will come out probably towards the end of this month in time for the Leadership Institute. So please do take the time to feed into that. And then the last one I'm going to mention this time around, we do have more committees and more people out there working hard, but in the interest of time, I'll just briefly touch on the fact that we've got a really strong set of nominations in. Russell Grossman, past chair of IABC, is, as per the bylaws mandate, the chair of the nominating committee, and he's been deliberating. And there's, again, a strong contingent of global leaders who've basically participated in that basic competency-based evaluation, and we will be making announcements soon around that. I'm particularly excited about the fact that, for example, one of the things we talked about at the annual general meeting is a refreshed editorial advisory committee, which will define basically a calendar that can hopefully generate conversation across all the different parts of IABC in the future. Now, we don't have too much time left, and I can see quite a few questions coming in, so I want to make sure that we address those. Melissa, would you mind taking us through those?
Sure. There's a few coming up on Twitter here. So heading back to what we were talking about with certification, Sarah has suggested to kick off GCC ambassadorship. Would you consider a free certification for one leader per chapter?
That's a great question, Sarah. At this point in time, that's not something that we have on the table. In fact, it's a new idea, so I guess that's why. But nevertheless, it's a really interesting idea. The GCCC is unique in its nature because it is an arm's length body, meaning it is not intended as something that completely operates directly as a sort of full IABC entity, simply from the point of view that it needs a little bit of independence in order to make sure that it's being impartial and so on. So it is an interesting idea. I'm not sure it's in the budget at this point in time, but what I would say is that chapters like the one that came up at the Denver Leader Group, where they were looking to basically deploy some of the resource that they've earned up, might consider doing a scholarship program around something like this. That would be one way of doing that. Any other questions?
Great. Yeah. So Molly Walker has asked if there's more news about the website and MMA, and is everything working now and what isn't, and where is the best place for members with feedback to go?
Okay.
Well, great. So I'll take the first part of the question first. So as we've worked through the progression of the website, the item that we're focusing on next is the MMA functionality. So the MMA, when it was re-enabled back in the July timeframe, lacked quite a bit of functionality as it relates to report functionality as well as access to regional leaders. and that's the work that we're now embarking on. And we've identified the various features that are missing within the current MMA deployment, and are going to be working with the development team that we have secured to put those features into play. So stay tuned for that as we move forward in restoring, if you would, MMA functionality. And if there's any feedback to that, related to that, I'll be happy to take that on as well. Whether feedback from members, I think the best way is through the website, using the forms that are on the website to provide feedback, which are monitored by my staff on a daily basis. Absolutely. In addition to that, I've mentioned earlier that we do monitor anybody who has issues within the form of either the renewal and the join, and we follow up with those individuals once we identify that there's been an issue, whether it's to the credit card processing or form completion, if you would.
And I just want to add to that we are taking IABC through basically the aftermath of 10 years of underinvestment in technology. It has been incredibly painful. It's been incredibly painful for all parties. I'm particularly grateful to the leaders out there who sometimes basically have a member come and stand on their toes because they can't renew and they really want to help. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate all the work and effort that's being put into this by staff. Very, very much appreciated. We will get through this. Any other questions, Melissa?
There's two questions from Sarah Lote, and she's wondering if we could have an international mentoring program, and wondering why we would keep it local when there's so much value in global. And she's also wondering if we could have an international events calendar.
Those are two really good ideas. I would say that I actually think that international mentoring is already happening. It's happening organically, and I think it's a really interesting idea. It's something that we need to look at. You may know that at the moment the IABC Foundation is slightly less active than it has been in the past, and this might be something that could look at. I'm not making any promises, but just saying that could be one area of that it might look at. And then with regards to an international events calendar, absolutely. At the moment, actually, you can submit your events. So is it just the leader letter or the sorry, Melissa, I'll ask, have you tell me which email is it that a chapter leader should use to basically mail an event in?
So if you've got an event at your chapter or regional level, you can go into Leader Center, and there is a tab on Leader Center, or once you've logged in, sorry, not even in Leader Center, once you've just logged in on the member page, there's a tab called Events, and you can submit an event there, give the details, links. They get reviewed, so they don't appear straight away, they get moderated, just, you know, we double check that the links are right and that there aren't any typos, that kind of thing. And then all of those appear on the events page for the IABC website. So, so that already is in place. And I will also say that on Weekly Digest, on our left-hand column of Weekly Digest, we do try to keep a list of all of the international and regional level events. We obviously can't fit all the chapter level ones in there just for space reasons, but regional and international events are all in Weekly Digest too.
Great, thank you very much. And also don't forget to use the social channels. I'm sure you are already, that are out there, and if you hashtag them, other leaders are often willing to help spread the word. We're kind of coming up on time, so I just want to make sure we haven't left any questions unanswered. So, Melissa, any more coming in?
I think we're good, actually.
All right, okay. Well, we've covered a lot. This has been the October Leadership Forum, the second one in this series. And we're still experimenting a little bit with the format. Today we had a guest visitor in Camille from Heritage Region. We are aiming to move towards having more leaders come on and speak directly to good practice, and also give updates from committees. So it might be Sue Human from the Global Certification Council, it might be Theo Mary Carmanis from the Academy, and so on. But we really want your feedback. So let us know whether this has been useful to you. Do feedback. I'm not going to recap the whole call, apart from just the quick headlines. I will post a summary on the blog as usual. But the quick headline is that we talked about the conferences that have passed, the ones that are coming up, and we also talked about the Leadership Institutes and some of the good practices that have come out of that. And then we talked about a range of the work going on at the international level to advance the profession and also the association. And really, I want to close out with just a few seconds to spare, an emphatic call to action, which is around the fact that the chapter leaders out there, there is an opportunity to be recognized at the Leadership Institute in Los Angeles. It's called the Chapter Management Awards. It's the best way to really test out your assumptions. Quite a few of you are getting into your board planning year. It's a great time now to review what other people have done in the past and then get the word out there and get recognized. And also with that, of course, when you do your own events and so on, make sure that you talk about the value of gold quill, silver quill, and the variants and so on out there. Any final words? Dianne, anything final to add before we close out?
Unmuting. Just very much appreciate the input from everyone and the questions, and really hope that everyone stays engaged. Definitely take advantage. There's only a few days left in membership month, so let's just seize this opportunity to take advantage of spreading the word about IABC, not just this great deal and the opportunity to have a drink with Michael, but to really use it to spotlight what we do as an organization.
That's great. Thank you. And Melissa, any final comments?
Just to say, there have been a couple of people submit questions that are comments, just basically saying that they're very much enjoying these forums.
Okay, great. Great.
Yes.
And, we will go through all the tweets afterwards to make sure that everybody has a response there. And anything final, Carlos?
I will. I thank you, Michael. I'll make a couple of plugs. One is for the World Conference registration that's coming up.
Yep.
And the other one is around the Gold Quill. And Melissa had flashed the
Can we do that again?
The Gold Quill. Yeah, there you go. Imagine. And I would ask everybody to consider entering and submitting for the Gold Quill program. And again, thank you to all leaders around the globe who are instrumental in advancing the organization. Thank you.
All right, so the final thing is we do have a quarterly report. It is coming, so look out for that in the next weeks, where you will be able to read a lot of the updates related to what we covered today. And we will also be back in November. And if you have special requests or questions, you don't have to wait until the day before or the minute before. You can reach out straight away. All right, with that, we're running 2 minutes over time. We want to be respectful of your time. Really big thanks to everybody who participated. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, Dianne. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Carlos. And thank you to everybody who was online and also on tweets and so on. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye-bye.